magazine. I've got my business shoes on too.
Oh, that's well done. They're very curious. Very cute.
Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to today's meeting, attending the Ordinary Council meeting today and our last Ordinary Council meeting for 2024. I declare the Ordinary meeting of 11th of December 2024 open at 9 a.m. Advise members of the public that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded in accordance with Council standing orders. Council staff are reminded of their responsibilities under their respective codes of conduct, both inside the Council meeting and when dealing externally on behalf of Council. On behalf of Whitsunday Regional Council, I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here and pay my respects to elders past and present. We recognise their deep and enduring connection to country and we extend our respect and gratitude for their wisdom and culture. Welcome all councillors, Whitsunday Regional Council staff, members of the public and the media. We've got two media today. Fantastic. Okay, first item, apologies. Got no recorded apologies for the meeting. Item number 2, condolences. Is there any councillors that would like to acknowledge any recently deceased members of our community? On behalf of Whitsunday Regional Council, we'd like to acknowledge and pay our respects to any recently departed of the Whitsundays region and offer our sincere condolences to their families and loved ones. Will you join me standing for a minute silence, please? Please be seated, everyone. Okay, on to item number 3, confirmation of the prior minutes. We have a move of Councillor Wright, second Councillor Collins. Any discussion on this item? Councillor Bowman?
Briefly, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just the inclusion of the minutes in the agendas, is that something that's going to continue going forward? Or?
Respond to that, Mr. CEO?
It's something we've been trying to put in place so that you can read it more clearly, so I think that's the option that we've gone forward with.
Okay. Anything further? Okay. The confirmation of the minutes, ordinary meeting on the 27th of November 2024 to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. On number 4, business arising. Would any councillor like to raise any business arising from the previous minutes? No? Okay, on to item number 5, mayoral minute. There is no mayoral minute for this meeting. Item number 6, notice of motion. No notices of motion have been received for the meeting. Item number 7, deputations. No deputations have been received for the meeting. 8, petitions, questions on notice. Does any councillor have a petition they would like to put on the table? Not going for the bag there, Councillor Collins?
No, I'm going to be sent.
Might just have them banked up there somewhere, eh? All right, item number 9, questions from the public gallery. We haven't received any public questions for this meeting and no members of the public in the gallery. Okay, moving on to our reports. I just want to note for everyone that we did have a late report item, which is at 12.1. The monthly finance report. So committees reports, item number 10. 10.1 is the Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes of the 19th of November 2024. I move Councillor Wright, second Councillor Simpson. I'm aware that there was a number of people not in attendance for that meeting. Would anyone like to speak to them at all? Anything raised? No? Okay, we're all comfortable with them. We'll move the motion that Council endorse the unconfirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on the 19th of November 2024. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Item number 11, officers' reports. 11.1 relates to sale of land, part 1 of Lot 1, Bootaloo Road, Bowen. Moved Councillor Wright, second Councillor Simpson. Director Bradshaw, would you like to speak to the item?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good morning, councillors. You have before you an acquisition of land report. It is relatively straightforward in that what we're seeking to do is correct, I suppose, the alignment of the existing road into the road reserve. The balance parcel, which represents a triangular portion, is to be disposed of by sale to the adjoining landowner. He's actually approached the council about addressing this. The map on page 122 really articulates what we're talking about, where you can see the alignment of the existing road reserve and the red cross hatching and the green portion there of the triangular bit, which we're disposing of to council, just down a little at the bottom of the screen. So that's really articulating what we're doing. There are going to be a number of these issues that we discover throughout, the term of council as we start to tidy up our mapping and, look to fix any anomalies like this. The landowner has been quite proactive in coming forward with this. They're happy with what's proposed in terms of the compensation and negotiation process. And this resolution seeks to empower and allow the CEO to negotiate and finalise the sale and transfer of that portion, to the landowner on the bottom side, where you can see existing building and structures. Within that current road reserve, there is a historic borrow pit, if you like, and you'll see somewhere in the photos there that it might be filled with water from time to time, as the seasons dictate. But it's generally quite straightforward. Happy to take any other questions.
Councillor Simpson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I've just a comment. I've been dealing with the landowner out there for the last couple of years. It's been a fairly drawn out process. It's pleasing to see it finally come to council, and just thank Jason and Peter and his team, because it's like you say, there's probably plenty of these out there, but it also tidies up John's property and gives him access. You'll see an access into his shed, and it just makes sense for this to happen. So hopefully, if there's more of them out there, we can help others too. Thank you.
Any comment or further question? Okay. The motion that council authorise the CEO to enter into negotiations to execute a contract of sale and transfer of documents with John Alexander Williams for sale of the land at Bootaloo Road. And as per the report, I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 11.2, donations, sponsorships in kind, requests and grants approved November 2024. Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Finlay. Director Wright, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, I'll take the report as read. Just for those watching on at home, the Junior Elite Athlete Grant, 3 approved for this month, $750. Donations, 5 approved, totaling $6,520. In kind donations, 2 approved, 888. Sport and Rec, only one, winding down, it's that time of the year. $1,000, and donation on council fees, $2,094. Councillors probably just may note that within the donations, there's the donation to Ronald McDonald House in Mackay. I've just got some stats here for that one. It's similar to the donation that we do for, whilst it is outside the region. It's similar to the donation that we do for CQ Rescue. Because the organisation services the region. Just for some stats for councillors, if they may be interested. In the last 12 months, Ronald McDonald House Charities for North Australia, which includes Mackay, from the following postcodes: 4800, which is Posse of course, 4802, nearly Fannavale, 4803, Hamilton Island, and 4805, Bowen. 276 families have utilised Ronald McDonald House. With that, 235 children have been through Ronald McDonald House. So that's just a bit of an explanation as to why there's something outside the region. Thanks.
Thank you, Director. That's some good context to what would probably be ambiguous otherwise, but yeah, obviously valuable service. Any comments or questions?
Through you, Mr Mayor, to Director Julie. Is that bus still running for people to Mackay?
Mr. Mayor, yes, councillor, it does. It runs from Prossie at the moment. So Prossie to Mackay back again 3 days a week. Councillor Wright and I actually had a meeting with the Mackay Hospital Foundation on Monday, I believe it was, and just discussing the way forward and how we may be able to, right at this point in time, if you're coming from Collinsville and Bowen, you basically got to get to here. Okay, it has a couple of pickups on the way through from Airlie through to here, through to Prossie, Bloomsbury, and then on to Mackay. So how we can actually organise some transport to folk from Collinsville and Bowen sort of to here without actually having to come in under their own transport. So they've got to get their own transport to here. Once they're here, then the foundation have the transport. 3 days a week. Christy actually sent me quite a detailed explanation of what it all is, and I've got my ComDev girls loading it onto the community directory, so it'll be there. But yes.
Just a quick follow-on, if I might. Is it correct that you can only access it if you have an appointment at the base hospital? Because obviously all the people that have got appointments at the Mater can't.
No, there is. They do go to other services. However, they would prefer that it was like a lot of people are going down in ambos if they need to go to other areas, but they can organise if they can fit it in for the return home. So yeah, and they're going to start to leave a little about 7 o'clock of a morning rather than 6 o'clock that they have been. So yeah,
because a lot of patients are being bumped from the base across to the Mater. Thank you.
Any further commentary on this report? Okay, the motion that council note the financial support provided to all of the recipients listed in the report. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Item number 11.3, Regional Arts Development Fund 24-25 funding round 2. Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Bowman. Director Wright, would you like to speak to this one?
yes, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Bowman, did you want to speak to it? I'm happy to. Yeah, okay. So councillors, we've had two for this round. The first one is for Linda Forrester, and it's the Proserpine Rock Wallaby Sculpture Mould and Replicas Workshop. The request was for $4,900, and the recommendation was to grant the full amount. The second was for the Whitsunday Art Fusion Creative Community Workshops, again more workshops, culminating in a regional exhibition and showcase. The request was for $7,713, and the committee have recommended $7,700 just to round it off into round figures. I'm going to take it that it was read as to what each of the projects are for. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Bowman, as Council Rep on the RADF Committee, any further context?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just with the Proserpine Rock Wallaby sculptures, it's an original sculpture going into a mould to create 20 replicas, which will then be painted up by local artists and planned to be used within the Hinterland Festival of May next year, which is a festival for Proserpine, activating the street, and each of these replica sculptures are then going to be used for a treasure hunt for certain streets. So I think that's a great project. The second one is a series of up to 7 separate workshops, often combined in 2 days, with the support of Council, RADF and the Proserpine Showground Committee. And the idea of the workshops across 2 days is that people can come to the showgrounds, actually camp overnight, partake in both. And then it culminates with the final showcase. Everything is a part of a more major event. So I think they're both great projects. And happy that the committee supported them.
Thank you, Council. Any further comments?
Can I just ask
Councillor
through you, Councillor Clay, so this is the Rock Wallabies, are they like the Rockhampton Bulls?
Thanks, Councillor Clifford. It's very similar to the rock wallaby we have out here. They've been arranging a number of different photographs from people around the region to also use within the festival, but to help with the modelling. There are some limitations in the size of the kiln to do it, so it's about 500 by 500 by 600, but it'll be the rock wallaby on a podium rock sort of thing to make it suitable for placement around the street. Does that explain?
Yeah, I know what it is. I wondered if the festival was similar to the Bull Festival that they have in Rockhampton.
I've only been to a couple of meetings relative to the Hinterland Festival. It's to help coordinate around more of an art gallery showing where the council showed interest in using these rooms, and the PEC was part of an art gallery, and then I think from the discussions they're looking at food and things to help, more activate the street, whether it actually includes the showgrounds and other something that be developed with the plan and the committee.
Very good. Some good things happening in the arts and culture space. Okay, the motion that council received the minutes from the RADF Local Advisory Committee and approve the payment of the RADF grants for round 2 as listed in the report. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Excuse Councillor Collins. Did you want you all right there, Councillor Collins?
Too early for morning tea.
We can trade that road because the sausage has in
The first. We're chugging on any Christmas ham now, will we?
No, but no left.
Yes, to continue, Councillor Collins. All right, 11.4, Flying Fox Policy and Roost Management Plan. Moved Councillor Wright, second Councillor Finlay. Director Wright, would you like to speak to this one?
Mr Mayor, councillors, I have the expert in the room, Scott Hardy, to address any matters that the councillors may have in regards to this one.
Thank you, Manager Hardy. Would you like to talk us through your report?
Morning, Mr Mayor, councillors. The purpose of this report is to present a new and revised Flying Fox policy, Flying Fox Management Plan and Roost Plan for Collinsville. The previous Flying Fox policy was written in 2017, so after 8 years it's probably time for a review. So today we're presenting a revised Flying Fox policy for discussion. The current situation with Flying Fox at the moment for the council is we have a Flying Fox issue at Collinsville. The Flying Fox Roost out there is currently comprised of 3,400 individuals on 9 properties and 16 trees, and 85% of the Flying Fox are little reds, which are seasonal. So we anticipate that most of the little red Flying Fox will leave in the next couple of weeks or so. So the new Flying Fox policy addresses 2 main issues. One is how council will manage Flying Fox on council land, and the other main issue is how we're going to address Flying Fox on private property within urban areas. So we do have a few new and revised clauses in the new Flying Fox policy. Would you like me to read those out? Just a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. So some of the new clauses which we've inserted into the revised policy. One is recognising that flying fox are a protected species under Queensland legislation, and that wildlife management is a responsibility of the state government. How we're intending to manage flying fox roosts on council land in urban areas remains unchanged at this point in time, in that it's intended that council will coordinate flying fox roosts on council land in urban areas. When it comes to private property in urban areas, there are some revised clauses into the flying fox policy. The first clause is flying fox are primarily considered a responsibility of the landholder. Council encourages landholders to take appropriate legal actions to move flying fox and prevent them roosting on private property. Council may coordinate the management of flying fox roosts in consultation with the landholders. The next revised clause is appropriate non-lethal management measures will be considered and, where acceptable, undertaken to manage the roost, dependent on the assessment as well as the cost and likelihood of success, where appropriate in partnership with landholders and within council allocated annual budget. The other new clause which we've inserted is council may apply for state or Commonwealth grants to assist with the funding of flying fox roost management actions. Are there any questions?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Scott, what is the budget? You mentioned it, I couldn't see it in the report, but I could have missed it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The flying fox management budget for this financial year is $100,000. Today we have spent very little of that money because we have not undertaken any roost management actions.
Councillor Finlay? Councillor Roth?
Through Mayor. Thank you for bringing these back. I think it's very important. I've always maintained that it needs to be a coordinated approach, I believe. So even though the flying foxes, it's not a declared pest, they're still a pest to the Collinsville residents. And I think we've all sort of seen firsthand what it's like to live a house situated under one of these trees. So it is, it's really not nice, and it's not healthy for anyone, I don't believe. So I'm really glad that we're bringing this back because we did try to bring it back earlier in the year before we had the budget, but it was tabled at that time. So I think this, we've been waiting for this one to come back, and I know we've done some extensive research and had the consultants come in and talk to the community about what they would like to see as well. So that's a really important part of this. And I don't believe the budget that we do have, it's not just for Collinsville, it's for the entire region. So if something pops up, that's when I think it's really important that it's there. But like I said, I think it does need to be a coordinated approach, and council needs to lead that. Otherwise, I've also had complaints from different people around the place where people get out with their whips and they're cracking whips in the street and it scares the neighbours' dogs. But if it's coordinated, that means that the residents are aware of everything that's happening, and I think it's better controlled as we can make it. So thank you for the work that you've put into this, and I'm really glad that we can continue to try to help the residents in Collinsville because it's a massive problem for them every day.
Councillor Finlay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and totally endorse Councillor Wright's comments there on that. And look, the guiding principle says it all, as our manager has just spelled out. And it's a state government responsibility. Obviously, we're there to help. I guess one of the guiding principles is our budget, and the word "may" in most of these things, as we discussed. So at the end of the day, it's the councillors that decide how much our budget's going to be. Hopefully, we don't have to use that budget for that, but in case we do, we will set an allocation in the budget for the forthcoming years for that. So, thanks for the staff, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Bond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, certainly accept it's an issue, and I'd like to see better outcomes. I've been looking around at the other councils. I know you've had a look. I haven't been able to find a single other council that's taken our policy position. Every other council has left the management of flying foxes solely on private land to the landowner or the state. Do you think there's a reason why we've come back to this position that is so different from any other council I've been able to find?
Flying fox roosts are a problem up and down the Queensland coast. There are a lot of towns. It's a difficult issue to manage. The legislation and guidelines which we have to comply with are very restrictive. does make it difficult for local governments to assist residents and move the flying foxes on. It's a difficult thing. There have been instances along the Queensland coast where councils have done dispersals. We do know of the Burdekin, they've done dispersals. Hinchinbrook, Ingham, they've done dispersals. Charters Towers, they've done dispersals. There's been a lot of examples of where local governments have done dispersals. In fact, here in Whitsundays and Proserpine, we did a dispersal here in Proserpine from 2016 through to around 2021. It did take a few years to move the flying fox on. It cost around $98,000 in operation costs, and then another approximate $30,000 in staff time for Proserpine. The Collinsville Flying Fox Roost has cost about $416,000 over the last few years. It's not a cheap exercise. It's not an easy exercise to do, and for small rural local governments with small resources and funding, it's a difficult thing to do.
Thanks, Scott. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Other councils have undertaken dispersals, but it's been where it's on council property and significantly affected residents, not where it's been on private residents, solely on private residents' policies. And that probably leads me into realistically the issue I'm having with this report when it comes down to active dispersals, especially pyrotechnics. It says the effectiveness is moderately high. I had a look around, and Townsville recently did theirs under different consultants, and just went out to public consultation, finished during this year, and they said dispersal is rarely successful. Scenic Rim said active dispersal is considered largely ineffective. The Lockyer Valley has said there is an extreme level of uncertainty. The published research, most recently renewed in 2021, says only 23% of dispersals were deemed as a success, and this generally only occurred with extensive destruction of roost habitat. Brings me back to Proserpine. We use sprinklers and significant trimming of trees to move them on. I'm just trying to find out. I do say they talk about, Collinsville has them dispersed through various properties and trees, but why am I seeing here it's saying there is a moderate to high effectiveness of dispersals when I haven't been able to find that in any other research?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Dispersals are difficult, and you really need a prolonged program to make them work. If you just go out there and try and disperse a flying fox over the course of a week, it's not going to work. It's in a lot of cases it's going to be a multi-year program. It's a difficult thing.
Councillor Collins?
To either Scott or Julie, has there been any local government areas in Queensland been subsidised by the state, or has the state given any money anywhere for the dispersal of these flying foxes?
Scott may want to answer that one. Councillors, Scott actually sits on what's the name of it? It's a group of councils, okay, that have the flying fox problems, and Scott has actually been the instigator of that group coming together, and so they bring a lot of experience as to what they're dealing with, and he'll be able to help whether any of the other councils have had the funding. We've had a little bit, but yeah.
Mr. Mayor, so there is a North Queensland Flying Fox Network which has been established, where there's a group of 10 local governments which we've brought together to share our knowledge, experience, trials and tribulations around flying fox roost management. Some councils have received grants from the state government to subsidise certain works for private residents, where the state government provides a subsidy to help residents purchase air conditioning units, basically helping residents to live with flying fox. The state government doesn't like to support financially dispersal dispersals. So through the state government grant process, there is money to set up vegetation buffers and use sprinkler systems to create a buffer between residential areas and roosts. The state government doesn't directly fund dispersals such as the use of pyrotechnics.
Councillor Wright.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. I guess, listening to what Councillor Bowman was saying, particularly around no other council does it, and I think we've got to look at our particular region. Like, we're not a cookie cutter for any other council in Queensland. I think the communities are different, the environment is different, and I think, we've got to listen to our community too. We do have an obligation there. So I think this is the best outcome. Obviously, it's not an easy thing, but we're in a position right now where the state government and both of our local members are in power. So I think it's an ideal opportunity to talk to them and see what we can actually achieve while we're in this position. I think let's work with the state and see what we can do to help Collinsville and any community, I think, that suffers with this problem. So I just think it's worth a shot.
Councillor Clifford, did you have something there?
I keep going back. These are a native protected animal. You know, they are. And we've been after them from 2021, is it? 21 till now. We've thrown nearly $500,000 at the problem. We've got other issues. We've got yellow crazy ants that have been brought in from elsewhere, which are an imported pest. We've got the Indian mire birds that are in plague proportions and are doing immeasurable harm to our native wildlife and properties, because they're under the solar panels and all sorts of stuff. And I think we should be concentrating more on the imported pests than on something that's actually native and protected.
Councillor Bowman, final comment on this one?
Yes, thank you. Just to touch on what Councillor Collins said, Rockhampton received $30,000 of state government funding for dispersal. That was 2022, because in that time it's constantly been shown that dispersals don't give good outcomes. Often they'll shift the conflict to different areas and things like that. When we look at our surrounding regions, Burdekin doesn't act on private land, Isaac doesn't act on private land, but unlike us, through the 6 rounds of funding, they've been out there seeking state government funding. I do support the mentioning here that we may apply for funding. We got some in round 6. We didn't apply again for round 7. But where we got some for a plan, Isaac got $70,000 for actions under their plan, including roost habitat improvement. Burdekin got $37,000, and I think we're spending $14,000 of state government money where we're at. So this is my thing. Even if we're doing the dispersal, last time we spent $250,000, got them to Pelican Creek. They came back. The moment we get up to a breeding cycle, we can't be out there pushing them away. My concern is if we spend this money without improving the habitat, which we've discussed with the consultant about removing vines and things like that, and without discussing with the residents whether their trees will be removed once the bats are gone, are we just going to continue in this cycle? To finish up, Mr. Mayor, I could find 2 dispersals that worked without removing trees. Sydney Botanical Gardens, Melbourne Botanical Gardens, 6-month daily visits, 12-month daily visits, final bill of $1 million and $3 million for Melbourne Botanical Gardens.
Yep.
So when we're sitting here saying it's only $100,000 this year, after spending over $500,000 and knowing it's an ongoing issue, I would like to see some management actions that actually make improvements, not that we're back here in several years, another $500,000 down with no discernible difference to the improvement of amenities to residents. Thank you.
Councillor Simpson, have a note from you on this matter?
I've got say something. Yeah. Like, yeah, this has been thrown around for a few years now, and I'm on both sides of the fence here, but I don't support what we've done in the past, and you know, we've learned a valuable lesson there. We've spent a lot of money, and it didn't work, so I don't want to go down that same path. But to differentiate between private land and council land in a small community like Collinsville, you've got a park here and a house next door. How do you decide, you know, what side of the tree this flying fox is on? They're a protected native species, and I think we need to know the state government. There is a biosecurity, not so much a threat, but a health risk to these people that live underneath these flying foxes. They're a terrible, dirty thing, and you talk about solar panels. I wouldn't like to have my solar panels underneath the crap that these things drop, but at least we've got a budget allocation there. We're not putting $200,000 or whatever out there, so that budget is, you know, for the whole region. So hopefully it's not all spent in Collinsville this year. We're living and learning, and hopefully we'll get some decent outcomes.
I think it's important to remember we're just talking about a policy position and a plan here today, rather than a specific action. I'm similar to Councillor Simpson. I'm quite conflicted on this particular issue, and I think I really can't see any evidence to support that the experiences of other councils would lead us to wanting to have any involvement in private property. I think that's probably the main differentiator for me. Nonetheless, I think the way that the policy is written and the way that I'll be looking to see that's enforced in the future is that the state is the primary responsibility holder, followed by the landholder, followed by us. And I think as long as we take that approach to it, then you know, I think whatever we do in the future will be fine. If we deviate from that approach, then that's something we'll need to look at again in the future. So, Councillor Wright, do you want the final word on this one?
Just a quick statement, I guess. We do have an opportunity here, but you know, if we don't try, nothing changes. So I guess, yeah, I'm all for trying something new. Hasn't worked, yeah, we learn from that and we move on. So yeah, I'd just like to put it to the vote, I think, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, the motion that Council resolves to rescind the prior Flying Fox policy, Flying Fox management plan and Collinsville Flying Fox roost management plan, and adopt the policy, the plan and the roost management plan as per the report. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried 5-2.
Can I have a division, please, Mr. Mayor?
Yep. Call for division with Councillor Bowman and Councillor Clifford voting against the motion. Okay, on to our late report item number 12. 12.1, the monthly finance report. I have a mover, please. Move Councillor Finlay, second Councillor Clifford. Director Bradshaw, would you like to speak to this one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good to end the year on a highlight. Monthly finance report as the last agenda item for the year. I know Councillor Finlay will support me in that.
Yep.
Councillors, you have before you the accounts for the 22nd of November. Given the early brought forwardness of this meeting, we had to close the month reporting for November a little early. So it's not a full reporting period in there of 4 weeks, but it does continue to demonstrate a sound financial position for council. So as we end, that period in November, the actual operating surplus at this point in time was just under $12.5 million. A lot of that's really impacted by timing of grant monies at this point in time, and also the phasing and allocation of the first half year rates. You will see revenue is relatively on track for the year. Certainly it's been influenced by some changes in grant funding throughout the year. As we look through page 225 and 226 of the agenda, it is important to note that the direct spend, particularly around materials and services, is about $3 billion under at this point in time. That will be a little influenced by the timing of the early close, because a lot of our contractor payments are made at the end of the month, and so they would have occurred a week after these reports will run. We continue to monitor the employee costs fairly closely. You'll see it tracking under budget at the moment. That's reflected in a number of vacancies being held across the organisation, but also managing the tightness of the wages budget in how we manage and resource the organisation. We continue to maintain a stable cash position. That's in allowing us to create additional interest revenue that accrues throughout the year, and that will help improve the overall revenue position for council as we move forward. We have locked in some long-term investments there that allow us to secure those interest rates, and as you're aware, the Reserve Bank has left interest rates on hold. That will only continue to flow through in the investment markets, and we'll seek to maximise those returns throughout the year. The capital expenditure is relatively on track. You'll see that if we look at the commitments in addition to the actual spend, we are 57% or over the midpoint of the potential spend as we head into the half year, and there'll be a really decent review in budget review 2 at the end of December to look at not just the capital projects but also the status of the operating budget. All of the sustainability ratios are within bounds at this point in the year, and demonstrate that we're in a generally positive operating position. Our council has been working through a QTC credit review process with the state government and the Treasury Corp as the state's banker. The outcomes of that review are likely to come to council around March, April for that report, and that's essentially a mandated process for any local government that has borrowings throughout the year. We haven't been prioritised in the first tranche, so our report will come later in the financial year. Mr. Mann, happy to take any questions on and have the balance of the report as read, but it does demonstrate that we're tracking well as we head into the midpoint of the financial year.
Very sure. Councillor Findlay.
Thanks, Jason, for the update. And things seem to be going quite well. Just last council meeting, Mr. Mayor, just asked the information regarding the Whitsunday Coast Airport runway loan, 1920. At the moment it sits at nearly $90 million at a very, very low interest rate, 2%. So it's a great investment. I just did ask about the term of that loan last meeting, so if we could back to just before, I'd just like to know what the remaining term of the loan is and what the P&I principal and interest schedule is for the remaining part of the loan. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Richard, do you want to respond to that?
Mr. Mayor, I obviously was absent at the last meeting. Councillor Findlay, I saw that email come through. I'll get an answer to you in the next day or so. Thank you.
Councillor Barnum.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're so ahead of time. I could ask Jason to go through everything line by line, I guess, at this point. But I'll just touch on page 13 under cash flows from investment activities. I just see the net movement in loans to community organisations, the 250 odd thousand. Just to confirm, would that be the money coming in from the sports park? And while I'm up, just 2 line items below is payment for rehabilitation work. I just see, I know we had about 10 million aside for landfills, but I just see that $2.1 million shift between the previous year's budget and this. Do we know where that $2.1 million is, and that's something we're expecting to be increasing at that sort of rate going forward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In response to the first question, Councillor, yes, that is the repayment of the outstanding loan. Council has received the cash for that. The movement in the rehabilitation work relates to the work that we're doing around waste. I need to take that question on notice in terms of the movement, but it will change throughout the year as we progress through work, and there's different sources of funding that we utilise for that work. So if it's coming out of current year cash as distinct from money that we have set aside, it may impact how that's reflected in the account. So I'll take that one on notice and provide a more detailed response when I talk to the staff.
Further questions, councillors? Okay. Motion council received the financial report and unaudited financial statements for the period ended 22nd November 2024. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion's carried unanimously. Okay, last item, number 13, matters of importance. Would any councillors like to raise any matters of importance? Very good. All right, on that note, finished nice and early today, and I'll declare the meeting finished at 9:44 a.m. Thank you for your attention.